This morning, if you'll rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Make it short and sweet. Bless us. We need all the help we can get. And we'll keep future and past in mind. Everybody sit down. Do this one. So we first have the approval of the minutes. Any changes or corrections?
Nope, not for me.
I don't.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Motion by Karen, second by Scott. Oh, I forgot to call attendance, so you want to start down there?
Patrick Vaness.
Karen Woodson.
Jane Plummer
Scott Safford.
and staff, John Heron, and, okay. And then public hearing, 5-year capital improvements plan.
Hey, good morning, Jason Green, Community Development. The only thing that we have on your agenda for, I guess, voting consideration is requesting your recommendation of approval to the Town of Fort Myers Beach Town Council for the updated 5-year capital improvement plan for the fiscal year 2023 through 2027. As you recall, we've been trying to evolve this thing over the last few years to be more reflective of the capital projects that are going on in the community. Your role in this, the code requires you to evaluate and make a recommendation. However, most of your role by statute and our own regulations really are geared towards evaluating capital projects related to concurrency or capacity in infrastructure. For example, roadways, parks, obviously fire and school are done by other agencies, but those are really the main things of your consideration for on the ground in town is parks and roadways. This capital improvement plan does include a couple items that are proposed for this year fiscal year. There's not a lot that's out in future years. Part of that is because I went through with Public Works the other day what was the 2017 bike ped master plan that was partially funded or all funded by the MPO that identified a number of capital projects, and the town has actually done or implemented most of them related to increasing capacity of bike and walkways. So that's a good thing that we've accomplished that over the last 5 years. That may be time for updating to identify other future projects or needs as the town has evolved, but I think that's a good thing that we've accomplished what we said we were going to accomplish. So what you have on here as far as related to you is really the park. Let me find my sheet here. I think it's on page 8 of your packet. I know it's page 1 of the capital project. The Bay Oaks redevelopment. There's an out parcel that was acquired, and the development of that is actually increasing the capacity of the park. So that's really the only item on here that is a capacity increasing project. The rest of them are either maintenance, replacement, or kind of a new but not increasing the capacity.
I've seen that they've started some kind of things, on Estero. What are they going to do there?
Well, that's the part that is, I think there's some equipment that there's a grant received for to kind of exercise equipment.
Oh.
And there's a pathway or walkway along that. There'll be the entrance to
Just a better entrance?
Better entrance, correct.
Oh.
That's a
More grand
driveway.
entrance. I'm sorry?
It's a driveway
It
that
used to
comes
be
in,
a,
isn't it?
it used to be a lot. No, there isn't a drive, I don't think.
There will be a roadway that comes into it, and it'll include a walkway, sidewalks. There's some parking, I think, at the end of it, but mostly it's the capacity, exercise, and other equipment that's going to be there.
Interesting.
Stations. So.
Yeah, it's a station workout area.
That'd be cool.
Where does the $200,000 impact fee come from?
You mean the expenditure?
Yeah.
We collect impact fees for roadways, parks, schools, and fire as part, I say roadways, but it really, transportation, as part of our building permitting process. Okay. And then that money gets put into a fund, and then we allocate those resources as projects come up. So we use, like I said, and I'm sorry, I can get you each individually the total budgets that we have, but at one point, a couple years ago, we had over $1 million in impact fees for transportation, and those are the monies that got spent towards all the sidewalks that you see around Crescent and 3rd Street and a lot of places around town. A lot of great capacity being increased for bike and pedestrian.
Good.
We don't have a lot of roads to widen. We have a lot of multimodal type projects to tie all those things together.
So I've got a question about overall. I mean, obviously, the town council spent numerous hours on lighting improvements and the mooring field expansion, yet we only have 100,000 for each in our budget next year.
Those are proposed to the budget for the town council. They'll be taking that up to, I believe, set that preliminary millage rate next week. Yeah, those are, I don't know where that 100,000 came from. That was a decision between, I guess, the council, and that's what they call the add-on list. It's if we have funds for that available, and if that's what they want to leave the millage rate at, then it would pay for that. But that's not those aren't capacity projects. I know they're important projects for the town, but they're not infrastructure related to concurrency or meeting growth demand.
Doesn't 100,000 seem kind of light for each of those?
I don't know. I don't get involved in that part of project. So
Okay.
that was the budget between the staff and administration and perhaps what was available. I don't know if that's a restriction or not. So that'll be a conversation that the council has based on some of this next week is, do we have enough funds to do a project? Should we take it from somewhere else or increase millage or decrease, or all those conversations that they have the preliminary budget parts? But it's a good question. It's just, I don't have an answer for you.
What is the, under water line replacement for 2025 and 26, 5 million and 6 million? Where is that for? Water utility, it says?
I believe those are various streets and replacements throughout the town. I don't know if they're tied to the tier one. No, they may be tied to future tier streets. Under multi-purpose, you have tier one streets, and it includes utilities. That may be future planning for additional streets as they get either resurfaced or redone, drainage to have those water lines replaced. I believe that, yeah, that's a replacement program, not a capacity increase.
Okay. Is there a master plan when it comes to these pretty big numbers? We've got, water utility, 5 million in 2025, 6 million 2026, and then in 2023 for water utility under tier one we have 5.4, which is even more than the actual drainage. So, the pipes in the ground are costing us more, and in my mind, those are big dollar figures for a small town, and I'm not aware of a priority plan or even publicize data as to how these are selected.
Well, I
priorities come
don't get involved in the planning of that, but by the tier one streets, those were the drainage and resurfacing. It looks like they've prioritized the replacement of the water lines along those because you're already in the right of way. And so I don't know the streets that are on the 25 and 26. It just looks like future planning for additional streets. I know they have other streets that are not part of that tier one as part of the master plan of the drainage. I don't know the name of the streets off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a tier two, tier three as the town goes. Yeah, we're at that age, the town's at the age where there's a lot of infrastructure to replace.
I'm sure that more has gone into it than what we're going to make a decision on here. Basically, we're rubber stamping what's been presented to us.
Right, so, but that's a great question because I think it's important to identify, it's hard to differentiate when your role is the capacity part of it, right? So if we were adding a wastewater treatment plant, which we don't need to do, if it was building a new water plant, if it was extending lines to an area that's on septic, for example, and creating new capacity, widening roads, doing things of that nature, those are types of projects that are capacity related. That's to address growth. We don't have a lot of vacant land. We have redevelopment. So there's not a lot of those capacity type projects that are done, except we have the parks being expanded. But even that, a lot of the park project itself is replacement and new. The increased size of the building is capacity related. If you add lights to a ball field, you've increased the times that you can use it. So that's a capacity type thing. But really, a lot of this year and next year is replacement, which is also a key part of maintaining infrastructure. So, but it's not part of which your role in related to the comp plan is. What do we need to meet the needs of growth? And that's we'll have another long-range CIP done as part of the comprehensive plan. And then the 5-year CIP gets updated every year to try to stay on track of those demands and matching population every year and every 5 years versus what the projection was for 20 or 30 years. Does that make more sense? Okay. Yeah, I don't want to discredit the questions. I think they're really good questions. It's just a lot of it's replacement versus capacity.
So basically, you're looking for a motion for us to send this on to the council as,
Yes, now if there's projects or areas of need that you think are missing, and say there's a whole neighborhood that's missing sidewalks, that there's been a lot of growth and there's been a transition from single family to multifamily, or and there's increase in population, and they really need this infrastructure, I think something like that could be added. We could evaluate what year to add that on and try to budget for that. But remember, your budgeting happens in this next fiscal year. The other years are projections.
So I have a question on Tier 1 streets where we have water utility, stormwater utility. So there was complaint at a recent town council meeting about the streets flooding so badly. I think it was down around Sterling. And then 3rd Street, since we've had all that redo of all the water pipes and all that kind of stuff, and it floods more than it did even before. So is that part of the stormwater utility, or how do we know when those things are taking place, or if they're taking place, if any work's being done on that?
On the individual streets or the phases within, I mean, each street's probably a little bit different, but there's numerous streets that were part of the master plan. They were broken, the council, I think, been here 5 years now, so the council's had several conversations about how to break those up, what are priority. That's where the Tier 1, I believe, came from. I don't know if this is finishing Tier 1, and then they'll make a decision the next year or two of what those next phases are, or if they already have. Frankly, I don't know, but there's other tiers, so to speak, of priorities. And those can change depending on issues that come up.
So how do you find out about those issues? I mean, we know about the issues, but how
Right.
do you find out if anything's really being done on it? Who
So
do you go to?
The specific programming of that, Christy Corey from Utilities and handling the stormwater stuff, I believe. I would recommend her, as the director, to individually to talk about those specific projects.
Okay.
She manages the consultants and the timing of that, and a lot of that's the direction of the council based on which phasing and how much money there's available and all that kind of stuff. And those are different pots of money too, right? So you've got stormwater, you've got utilities, you've got grants, you've got general revenue, you got different pots of money for different parts of it.
And Jason, I completely understand your point about our responsibility when it comes to looking at capacity and increase in capacity. But we are provided this every year, and I've got the same comment I had last year,
why don't-
is if we're gonna be looking at this, we're gonna ask to look at the whole thing comprehensively, meaning given the whole spreadsheet with all the expenditures.
Okay.
I think we should be afforded the respect of having the backup information and understanding what that is. And we may or may not want to dig into it and look at the details, but it would be nice to get. And I think it's just because when we sit here, we also have neighbors, other citizens that come to us and ask us questions. Where's that money going? Where's it coming from? And, just like I mentioned previous years, I don't know. I just don't have that backup information. I could probably take the time to come here and sit with staff and try to dig this. But right now, I'm in the same position I was last year, kind of just seeing some.
So do you mean you want to see the previous, maybe we misunderstood that from last year, the previous expenses of where it is to date on the project, so you understand what's left, or are you talking?
Well, for example, if we have, on the Tier 1 streets, if we have a budget, I'm assuming we have a list of maybe 5 streets that we've got planned. What are those?
Well, not only that,
For many other things also.
but if we could look at the 5-year budget that was budgeted and what it came in at, and what the adjustments were made, that would also be interesting to look at this, because looking at numbers, we go, there's numbers, okay?
What's included in those numbers?
Yeah.
or-
Yeah, I mean, it gets really tricky because you have your budget number that you adopt in September for the council, and then you have your real expenses that happen
Right.
throughout the year, and sometimes those numbers match and sometimes they don't.
But that would
Simply
be
because it depends on how, right, and then so you have to do is get I think the year end, around, is it November, John, maybe? They do the final, this is what the last fiscal year was. They close out everything from a time, so it's November, December of every year that you get the previous fiscal year final, and so then you have to pull those projects out of that. But that was, yes, there's a summary sheet for that from the previous fiscal year.
That would be really helpful too.
Yeah. And a great example that, I think as a town we should publicize, hey, we got a grant for, what is it, $1 million for the park? Yeah, that's great news. It'd be nice to know what that grant was, where it was coming from, that type of thing.
Who got it for us?
Yeah.
Well, and we also got $1 million, just to toot the own horn, but we got the $1 million for for Times Square also.
Marcia Siegel George used to write grants all the time. We had so much money coming in, it was amazing. That's how we bought,
That's how we got the $1 million.
Townhouse.
We asked for it.
yeah.
They hadn't asked for it, so we decided to ask for it, and we got the $1 million.
Yeah, well, we probably need maybe to hire a writer instead of just an employee that can, get the money coming back at us, but, whatever. All right, any other questions on this? Because we need to keep a quorum to vote.
Yep.
Anybody want to make a motion? Okay, I'll make a-
Again, if there's other projects that you think are necessary or needed, based on your experience with growth and what you see, we could add those for future years. But right now, the main thing that is capacity related is that park, the out parcel for the park.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend approval for the 5-year capital improvements plan for 2023 through 2027.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. I don't think we voted on the approval of the minutes. We did have, sorry, I don't have my
Yeah, we did.
rules. I think we got a first and a second, and I don't know that we voted. So voting on approving the minutes, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. So those are done. We're in fast motion, fast forward, trying to get done while we still have a quorum, sorry. We seem like we've been rushed. Moving on to administrative agenda.
We don't really have anything. I just, I believe there was somebody, lost my list here, Karen Slumsky, is that right? Appointed on May 16th by the council to the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. So
Great.
that is a fuller committee that's, I believe, ready to meet whenever you guys
Have
are
a
ready.
meeting?
Now, some of those, yes, so some of those appointments, there's a couple that are coming to end this year, but that doesn't mean they can't submit for renewal. Just it seems strange because they haven't met, but a couple terms are coming to the end of 2022, so.
Okay. Since we don't have our people here that are, well, Scott, are you on the historical? Who's on historical? So, since nobody else is here to do historical, should we just skip that one?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an update that somebody was appointed.
Oh, okay,
And there's more people on it now than there has been in a long time.
okay. LPM members' items and reports. You want to start down there, Patrick?
Nothing for me.
I don't have anything.
Only thing I want to bring up is just, I think we're beginning to hear about a storm that's coming, and I want people to start thinking about hurricane season and preparing for the next weekend, should we get this storm that's out there. Scott?
Knock on wood.
Yeah, if there's wood in here, yeah.
I'd like to give a shout out to Carol and Randy at the Shamrock, who did a fundraiser for Princess Sophia this weekend. They raised $15,000, and
Wonderful.
the Shamrock matched it. So the Chartier family got $30,000.
Wow.
Like to see the community, come together like that.
That's
We had a lot of differences, but everybody came together over this, so it was really, really special.
super. And then, community development items and reports?
None for me? Do we? No.
Anything?
So, I'm sorry, well, schedule-wise, June 14th is your next LPA. date.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna ask. Okay.
And I also forgot to state that Megan and Anita had excused absences. I don't know if anybody heard from Forrest?
Yes, yes.
Oh, so he had an excused absence
Yes, sir. Yes,
also?
ma'am. Yes.
Okay, very good. Items for next month's agenda?
I have a question on one.
Okay.
Because we heard through all of the town council meetings, everything, that the new ordinance, or the ordinance for the wave runners and the vendors on the beach was going to come back to us. Do we know when that's happening, or what that is?
Next meeting,
June 14th meeting?
and that's the goal, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Is the Williams property coming back to us then also?
Which one?
The Williams property that we extended last month?
Okay. Yeah, there's a couple that are moved to August from the last couple months. I know we'll have a couple, I believe,
Yeah,
PD
Williams
PD amendments and maybe a variance for June. But there's several items that were kind of on hold for us that got moved to August from
Okay.
just being available.
And that being,
Not us, but the applicant.
that being said, are we not having a meeting in July? Like,
Well, it's up to you, but traditionally, that's what, you take the same month off that council takes off.
I think that's agreeable.
Okay.
Any public comment?
No public
Nobody's
here.
here, so move to adjourn, anyone?
So moved?
I'll second.
Motion by Scott, second by Karen. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nobody opposed. Well, that was quick and short. All right. Hopefully Megan and Anita will be healthy again for next year, for next month. Yeah.
Yeah,
We do
June
have
14th.